All right, welcome to Technically You, the podcast that breaks down big tech into bite-sized brilliance. Today, we're going to be talking about something that I think a lot of you probably have at least heard of, maybe even used a few times.
Definitely.
It's this idea of digital transaction management, or DTM.
Right.
And, it's funny. I feel like we hear about going paperless all the time, but it's not always clear how that actually works in practice.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So today, we're going to demystify this whole world of DTM. And we're going to look at not just how it works, but the security of it. Are these e-signatures even legal? We're going to kind of get into all of that today, which I think is pretty exciting, especially if you're someone who, is doing a lot of business online, or even just in your personal life, like signing a lease.
Absolutely. DTM is everywhere these days.
It is everywhere. So maybe before we dive into the kind of nitty gritty, could you just give us like a high level overview of what DTM is? Like, how would you explain it to someone who has never heard of it before?
Okay, so in the simplest terms, DTM is basically about managing all those document-based tasks you used to do manually, but now doing them electronically through cloud-based services. So think about all those times you had to print a document, sign it, scan it, email it, maybe even fax it sometimes.
Don't remind me about faxes. I think only law firms and the medical field still use those relics.
Right? DTM basically makes all of that obsolete, and it's not just for businesses anymore. Individuals are using it for everything from signing contracts to, like you said, leasing agreements, even things like online banking.
So DTM is basically, if I'm hearing you right, it's like the umbrella term.
Exactly.
And then under that, you have things like e-signatures and digital signatures.
You got it. And there are some big players out there who offer these DTM services, companies like DocuSign, Adobe Sign One, Span. They're kind of the leaders in the space.
Yeah, I feel like I've definitely heard of DocuSign.
Right. Everyone has.
That's the one that pops into my head immediately.
Yeah, it's become almost synonymous with e-signatures at this point, just like Kleenex with tissue or Band-Aid for bandages.
Got it. So it sounds like the obvious benefit here is that it's faster, it's more convenient, it's probably cheaper too, because you're not using all that paper and ink.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm curious, are there other benefits beyond just the kind of surface level convenience and cost saving stuff?
Oh, definitely. One of the big ones is accuracy. Think about how many times you've filled out a form by hand and made a mistake or maybe missed a field or something.
Oh, that happens all the time. My handwriting is terrible.
Right. With DTM, you're often filling things out digitally, so there's less room for those kinds of human errors. Plus, everything's stored electronically, so it's easier to keep track of and search for documents later on when they are needed.
Okay, so that makes sense.
And then there's the security aspect. We'll get into the details of digital signatures later, but in general, DTM offers a more secure way to manage sensitive information than traditional paper-based methods.
Yeah, that's actually what I kind of wanted to dig into a little bit more.
Sure.
Because I feel like with anything digital, there's always that question of, is it really secure?
Right.
So when we're talking about e-signatures specifically, there are different levels of security. Is every e-signature created equal?
That's a great question. And the answer is no. Not all e-signatures are created equal. A simple electronic signature, like clicking a button to accept terms and conditions or typing your name in a box, is better than nothing. It provides some basic record that you agreed to something, but in terms of security, it's not that strong. Someone could easily claim they didn't click that button or that someone else used their computer.
That makes sense.
That's where digital signatures come in. And they're kind of gold standard when it comes to e-signatures.
Okay. And that's different from just a regular electronic signature, right?
Exactly. Digital signatures use something called public key infrastructure, or PKI.
PKI?
Yeah, it sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Think of it like a digital fingerprint for your signature.
Okay, I like that. I can picture that.
It uses a pair of keys, a public key and a private key, to encrypt the document and verify the signer's identity. So your public key is kind of like your public-facing ID. Anyone can use it to verify that a document was signed by you.
Okay.
But your private key That's secret. That's only known by you. It's used to actually create your digital signature.
So it's like you need both keys to make it work.
Exactly. And because these keys are mathematically linked, any changes made to the document after it's signed will invalidate the signature.
Oh, that's smart. So it's like tamper proof, basically.
Exactly. That's why digital signatures are so much more secure than just typing your name in a box. They provide proof of who signed the document, that the document hasn't been altered, and that the signature itself is authentic.
Okay, so if I'm like signing a really important document, let's say a business contract or something,
Right.
I should be looking for something that uses a digital signature, not just like a simple electronic signature.
Yes, absolutely. If it's something really important, you want that extra level of security and legal assurance that comes with a digital signature. Plus, in some industries, digital signatures are actually required by law.
Okay, that's good to know. And speaking of legal, that's another big question that I think a lot of people have about e-signatures.
Sure. What is it?
Are they actually legally binding? Can they hold up in court like a traditional handwritten signature?
Yeah, that's a common concern. And the good news is, yes, e-signatures are generally legally binding. At least in the US, we have the Electronic Signatures in Global and National Commerce Act, or the e-Sign Act for short. That was passed back in 2000.
Wow, 2000. That feels like a long time ago in internet years.
I know, right? But that law basically gave e-signatures the same legal status as handwritten signatures for most transactions. And a lot of other countries have passed similar laws since then. So in most cases, you're good to go.
But I'm guessing there are probably some exceptions or nuances to that.
Yeah, there are definitely some exceptions, and the specific laws can vary from country to country. So it's always a good idea to do your research, especially if you're dealing with international transactions or something really high stakes. For example, in Europe, they have the IDA regulation, which gets a bit more specific. They actually distinguish between different types of electronic signatures, like basic and advanced. The advanced ones offering a higher level of legal assurance because they involve stronger identity verification.
Okay, so it's kind of like the more sensitive the transaction, the higher the level of e-signature you probably want.
Exactly. You want to make sure the type of e-signature you're using aligns with the legal requirements and the level of risk involved in the transaction.
So we've been talking a lot about the technical side and the legal side, but I'm also curious, like, what about the practical implications? How is DTM actually being used in different industries? Because you mentioned it's not just for business anymore.
Right. And the applications are really vast. Let's start with sales, which is where I think DTM has had one of the biggest impacts. Think about how many steps were involved in closing a deal before DTM came along. You had to draft the contract, print it out, sign it, get it to the client, have them sign it, get it back, scan it, store it. It was a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, I can imagine.
With DTM, the whole process is streamlined. You can send the contract electronically, the client can sign it from anywhere in the world, and it's all tracked and managed in the cloud. It's faster, it's more efficient, and it can really speed up the sales cycles.
So, like that example you gave at the beginning of the client overseas.
Exactly. You don't have to wait weeks for a courier anymore. It can all happen in minutes.
Okay, so sales, definitely a big one. What about other departments? I'm thinking HR must be using this a lot too, right?
Oh, absolutely. HR is another area where DTM has been a game changer. Think about all the paperwork involved in onboarding a new employee. Offer letters, employment agreements, tax forms, benefits, enrollment. It's a ton of documents.
Absolutely. There's enough documents to sign to cramp your fingers.
Exactly. And it used to be a really manual, time-consuming process, but with DTM, it can all be done digitally. The new hire can sign all their paperwork electronically, and everything is stored securely in the cloud. It saves HR departments a ton of time and reduces the risk of errors.
I bet it makes the whole process a lot less stressful for new hires too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a much smoother, more efficient experience for everyone involved. And then there's finance and accounting.
Oh, yeah, I bet they love this.
They do invoice processing, purchase orders, and expense reports. All those tasks can be automated and managed securely through DTM platforms. It helps businesses get paid faster, improve cash flow, and reduce the risk of fraud.
All right, so it's not just about like saving trees. It's actually like it's about improving efficiency across the board.
Exactly. And that's why it's becoming so essential for businesses of all sizes, especially with the rise of remote work. It allows teams to collaborate seamlessly, regardless of location, and ensures business processes keep moving even if everyone's not in the same office.
So it sounds like DTM is like a necessity now in in the modern business world,
Yes, it's getting there.
especially if you're operating remotely or you have teams in different locations. It just makes sense.
Absolutely. And it's not just about internal processes either.
Oh, right.
DTM is also changing how businesses interact with their customers and partners. Think about things like customer onboarding, contract renewals, even customer service interactions. DTM can help make those processes faster, more efficient, and more secure, and it can really improve the overall customer experience.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if I'm a customer and I need to sign something or fill out a form, I'd much rather do it online than have to print it out, sign it, scan it, and then email or fax it.
Exactly. It's just easier and more convenient for everyone involved.
So it sounds like this is not just a trend, it's kind of like the future of how we do business.
It really is. And as technology evolves, we can expect even more innovative applications of DTM. We're already seeing things like blockchain technology being integrated into some DTM platforms,
Oh, wow.
which can provide even higher levels of security and trust for digital transactions.
So, like, the possibilities are kind of endless and it's just going to keep evolving.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so exciting.
Well, this has been incredibly informative.
Oh, I love these technical discussions.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot about DTM just in this short conversation. I'm sure our listeners have too. So, any final thoughts for our listeners, who maybe are thinking about making the switch to DTM or just want to learn more about it?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is that DTM is more than just going paperless. It's about transforming how we work and do business. It's about speed, efficiency, security, and convenience. And in an increasingly digital world, it's becoming essential for individuals and businesses alike.
So, it's not a question of if you should adopt DTM, it's a question of when.
Exactly. And the sooner the better.
Great. Well, we want to thank our listeners for joining us today. This has been a really insightful dive into the world of DTM. We'll be back next time with another deep discussion into the world of technology. Until then, keep exploring the fascinating world of digital transformation.
See you next time.
And as always, stay curious.